It's hard to believe because when she gets on the softball field, she's a bruiser and she goes crazy playing ball. Exposed to more, experience more, and not have the depth of relationships with peers where iron sharpens iron and a friend has the ability to sharpen your team. During this time, ensure communication is happening at home and that assurances of your love continues, even if you don't agree with some of their choices as they struggle through their challenges. Your love during this time has the greatest potential for influence, so make sure they know it. Parenting Today's Teens is a production of and sponsored by Heartlight Ministries.
Thanks for listening to Parenting Today's Teens with Mark Cranston. If you enjoy the advice you receive on this weekly program, we think you'd love our new daily podcast. That's right, Parenting Today's Teens is now a daily podcast released every weekday. Each day, Mark shares his understanding of teens and parenting in various formats. Twice a week, Mark shares on specific topics and discussions with sidekick Wayne Shepherd. One day a week, he interviews teens who are working through their issues at the Heartlight Counseling Center for Teens. Another day, Mark brings an encouraging message to help support parents. And finally, on one of the days, Mark spends time answering the questions you have about parenting and your teens. The Parenting Today's Teens podcast is available to download on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find and listen to your favorite podcasts. Go subscribe today and make sure you don't miss a single episode from Parenting Today's Teens.
Helping to build your life on the solid rock of God's Word. This is
You are in the middle.
Enterprise Supply Junction City Service of God Radio Network. China says that in this world you're guaranteed trouble, setbacks, heartaches, times of testings. With that in mind, it's crucial to understand why trials happen and how they help you, how you can know true joy even in your darkest days. John MacArthur explains that and more in his classic study called Benefiting from Life's Trials on Grace to You Weekend. Hear Grace to You Weekend, Saturday at 6:30 a.m. Central and Sunday at 4 p.m. Central on Bond Radio Network. Hi, this is Pat Reel on Bond Radio Network. You've heard that Bond Radio Network is closely working with Transworld Radio to get the gospel into Cuba. This is a huge project. Sending missionaries into Cuba is more than challenging, yet Transworld Radio can broadcast into Cuba every night. Our goal has been to get 150 Bond Radio Network listeners to join us in this monumental effort. Let me say thank you to so many who have jumped in. You're incredible. We're so deeply appreciative of your passion for reaching the lost, for the love of bringing God's word to God's people in Cuba. Will you give a generous gift of 100, 200, 500? Cuba needs Jesus. Cuba needs you. Call now. 844-WIN-CUBA. That's 844-WIN-CUBA. Again, will you consider a very generous gift of 100, 200, 500? Call 844-WIN-CUBA. That's 844-WIN-CUBA, or go online to BondRadioNetwork.com and click on the Transworld Radio button. Calling all Christian communicators. There's only one place to be in February. The 2025 NRB International Christian Media Convention, the world's largest gathering of Christian communicators. Most respondents agree that the first to go should be any illegal immigrant who's been convicted of threat to the security of the country. And evangelicals are also open to a pathway to citizenship for other illegals, especially those who have been here a long time and had jobs. Pro-life advocates support a temporary halt on millions in foreign aid dollars that support abortion. On Radio Network's Rebecca Crockett.
The 90-day freeze on foreign aid issued through the U.S. Agency of International Development was announced last week by the State Department as part of a broader review of spending. Officials cite concerns over wasteful spending and ideological bias in some programs. While exceptions have been made for food assistance and military aid to Israel and Egypt, the administration says funds will allow for a closer look at funding priorities and potential permanent cuts. Rebecca Crockett on Radio Network.
The new Secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs is a pastor. Doug Collins, whom the Senate confirmed this week as a former Air Force chaplain, Iraq War veteran, and member of Congress. Some Democrats voted against him because he is pro-life, saying they're concerned that he would limit access to abortion and in vitro fertilization for veterans. Andrew Yates, Radio Network.
Glorify God as you grow in your Christian walk with the insightful teaching on PowerPoint Weekend with Jack Graham, pastor of Prestonwood Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas. Jack Graham opens God's Word to deepen your relationship with Christ so that you can shine as a witness to this generation. Get valuable encouragement when you join Pastor Jack Graham for PowerPoint Weekend, Saturdays at 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Central here on Hot Radio Network.
The Wallmower Show discusses major issues happening in our country right now. Tune in and hear hosts David Barton, Tim Barton, and Rick Green examine key topics affecting America by looking at them in the light of the ideals that our founding fathers used when they built a solid foundation for the United States. You're invited to listen as they discuss what's happening today, relating to policy, faith, and culture, all from a biblical, historical, and constitutional perspective. They'll be joined along the way by special guests ranging from government and military officials to veterans, educators, attorneys, top authors, and even citizens who are on the front lines. You'll hear how practical application of biblical principles can help restore families and our nation. Meet us at the intersection of faith and culture with those David Barton, Tim Barton, and Rick Green on The Wallmower Show. Weekday evenings at 5:30 p.m. Central here on Hot Radio Network. Hi, I'm Tim Moore, Senior Evangelist on Christ and Prophecy. Can you see the signs of the times multiplying all around? To stay up to date about unfolding events and get a biblical perspective on the signs of the times, listen to Christ and Prophecy. We reveal the prophetic hope for those who believe in Jesus Christ, as well as the Bible's warning about God's coming wrath to those who don't yet know Him. Hear Christ and Prophecy, Sundays at 12:30 p.m. Central on Hot Radio Network.
You're listening to Family Talk, the radio broadcasting division of the James Dobson Family Institute. I am that James Dobson, and I'm so pleased that you joined us today.
Well, welcome to Family Talk Weekend. I'm Roger Marsh. Thanks for making time during your weekend to take us along or to have us with you at home. Family Talk is a listener-supported broadcast outreach, and your prayers and financial partnership make these programs possible. Well, we have a great program in store for you today, so let's jump right in. Well, welcome back to Family Talk, the broadcast division of the Dr. James Dobson Family Institute. I'm Roger Marsh, and on today's program, part 2 of our special conversation with Brandon Cavallaro, the founder of the brand new ministry called The Warfighter's Mission. You can find the link for their website, thewarfightersmission.com, up at our website, drjamesdobson.org. During the next half hour, Dr. Dobson will continue his fascinating conversation with Brandon about how he got into the military. Here's a hint. He wanted to join when he was 15 years old, right after 9/11. How he met his wife, Tanya, and how God blessed their family with not one, not two, but all the way up to 7 beautiful daughters who are also here in studio with us. Now, without further ado, let's continue with Dr. James Dobson talking with Brandon Cavallaro about his tours of duty on the Warfighter's Mission here on the special edition of Family Talk.
did you get to go home for any period of time?
After that first deployment, I came home for a few months, and I got to take 30 days of leave, so I got to spend time with her, and we had 2 kids at the time. But I'm not gonna lie, I was dealing with a lot of my PTSD, so I wasn't really there.
Tell the audience what that is.
PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. It's when you're in stressful environments and it's constantly
It changes you, doesn't it?
it changes the way that your mental state is. I was dealing with a lot to the point where I ended up drinking heavily, and I kicked her out. I kicked her and the kids out, the 2 kids, because I wasn't always there.
You weren't a really nice guy during that time.
I was not a nice guy. I was a bad person to her, to my kids, to anybody that I met. I didn't know it at the time, but I was struggling. I needed a way out. It was a hard point in my life, but we got to the point where we separated, and we were on the verge of getting divorced because of the fact that I wasn't who I was before, and she didn't like that, and I was okay with it. But something that changed was I came to come visit the kids one day, and she saw me, and she looked me in the eyes and said, "Oh, your eyes are so yellow. You're killing yourself. You're not, I don't want you to die. I need you." And God was there. Again, I didn't know at the time, but He kind of changed that and said, "Okay, you need to work on this." And
I'm really interested in you telling us more about that, but did you get badly wounded? Was there any point where you really took one?
it was just my nerves, Doctor. After my last deployment in Afghanistan, my nerves started getting really, really compressed into the point where I was stuck in a wheelchair after they medically retired me, and I couldn't feel the bottom of my feet, I couldn't feel my legs, I couldn't feel anything.
Was that the end of the military for you?
That was the end, and I'll tell you, Doctor, that was the hardest part of the transition was when I became useless to the Army. I felt like they were done with me, and I was letting everybody down. I was letting all my friends down. I was letting my country down. I was letting my family down.
Did you go home?
I did. We stayed in Washington State. They retired me out of Washington State. And, the VA, as much as they try to care for others, all they did was pump me with a bunch of medication, tell me, "Oh, this will help your nerves, but this has this side effect. And here's this medication to stop those side effects, but this has this side effect." And so it just kept, I think at one point I was on 20 or 30 pills. A lot of it was painkillers and stuff that they were trying to figure out what was going on with my body and able to figure it out. There's a point in that part where I don't remember a whole week because I was on so much medication that the VA was trying to do on top of trying to fix my PTSD.
You know what the amazing thing is? I look at you today and I don't see that man you're describing. I see a guy who is very disciplined, a guy who loves the Lord, a guy who would not recognize himself today.
Tanya said that.
Working with you, you and I have developed a real friendship here, and you're not that man.
I wish I wasn't always like that. But God puts us through those trials of Job, the trials of Samson, the trials of David. God puts us all through those. And like I said, that was an easy part of my life. I almost lost my family for the second time during that time after.
When did the Lord come into the picture?
Officially, it was 2 years ago for us. But Tanya and I, we were dealing with a lot of things. Mostly me dealing with me and Tanya dealing with me. And it got to the point where told them to go do stuff. And, she was getting ready to leave, and I remember hearing the garage doors open and close when she was gone. And I was getting ready to take my own life because I was waiting for them to leave. And for some reason, she popped right back into the room with the kids. And that was the point where I knew God.
Well, woman, this is a good time to tell you you are the father of 7 girls.
Yes.
4 boys.
7 girls. The Lord blessed me with 7 girls. I keep telling everybody, my running joke is when I was younger, I wanted to be surrounded by beautiful women. When you ask that kind of stuff, God has a sense of humor. And he says, all right, here it is. But yeah, our 6th daughter was born 28 weeks premature. And that was hard because it was right between COVID. We didn't know if she was going to live. And so that's when I started relying on the Lord. And this is before I met our friends. We were on that verge of leaving the Catholic Church. We didn't know how to do it. We didn't know what to do because we just weren't agreeing with a lot of things. But she came, like I said, 28 weeks. And just seeing her the size of my forearm was hard. And then seeing her in this little chamber was even harder. And so I broke down. We had to take turns going and visiting the baby. We couldn't go in at the same time, which was the weirdest thing for us. But every night I just kept praying. I stood there and I said, Lord, if you're real, take this blood. And I just kept praying and praying and praying. And finally, 3 weeks later, she came home to us and she got to finally meet her sisters. I think that was another big part. Is her sisters couldn't come in and see her. But that was when I started, trying to make deals like this with God, saying, if you do this, I'll follow you anywhere. I'll follow you as long as you let her come home. I'll follow you to the end of the world. In 2021, our good neighbors Brad French and Sam French, they sent us a gift card for Starbucks saying, we're new to the neighborhood. And I said, does that? Usually, when somebody moves into the neighborhood, you give them a gift or a welcome gift, but they sent us one. Out of the blue, I saw him spraying down his, the weeds out in front, trying to kill him. And I looked at Tanya and I said, hey, we need to go say thank you. And she looked at me like, who are you? She says, I haven't seen this guy before. And I said,
You were really a mess, weren't
I
you?
was. You can ask her every single day. I was definitely a mess. At this point, I wheeled over there because I was in the wheelchair. I went over there and I talked to him and I said, hey, I just wanted to say thank you for that card. It really means a lot to us. And we got to know him, and instantly, as soon as we started talking, it was like I met my brother. I didn't know at the time that he was a pastor, but
The Lord sent him to you, didn't he?
again, just like in Washington, he put a pastor right next door to us. This time he was like, okay, you're going to listen. You said you're going to listen to me. Fine, let's do this. And so he did that. It was like my heart started to soften a lot more for people because before then I just didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't care who you were unless you were a veteran. Specifically, if you went to combat and understood what I dealt with, I didn't want to talk to you. And that day, God did something. And he said, you're going to go talk to me. And we did, and ever since then we've been like best friends.
Well, you and I have worked pretty closely together, and I see a guy that's very different than you've been describing.
Yeah, you've heard my story, and it wasn't an easy journey. I keep going back to Luke 15, the parable of the lost sheep. And God has always been looking for me. I've always been looking for him. I just never, every single time he found me, I would go and graze somewhere else. And, I love the Lord so much that I like talking about it to anybody. And that's why we started our nonprofit here for veterans.
Well, let's talk about that. You really do want to win people for the Lord.
I do.
You want them to get what you got.
I wish somebody in the whole world would have what I have. Through my whole journey, there was always 2 constants. One was the Lord. I just didn't know him at the time. And 2 was my family. It's funny how God puts people in our paths that we would not even imagine being. I mean, I only heard about you through, I think my mom had my was like, Lord, if you really think that I should do this job, if you think this is in my path, then I'll go do it. I'll entertain it. And he said, go interview. I said, okay. So I interviewed, and within a week, I was talking to you at your house. You were celebrating your 63rd anniversary at the time. And that was truly an experience that I never imagined. But I'm just grateful for that. And you're a big inspiration on, again, the Lord puts people in our paths. And family is the biggest part of our ministry. Everybody talks about healing veterans. There's big nonprofits that will go out there and take veterans on nice trips, or they'll try to heal the combat veteran that's wounded with all these things, or they'll focus on family and just that family aspect of trying to heal the family by like taking them to trips or giving them gifts and all that stuff. And that's great. It works for some people, but the one thing that they're missing is the Lord. There's a handful of ministries out there that do focus on bringing God back into veterans' lives, and our main focus is trying to heal both at the same time by bringing them together, because I told you, Doctor, my family has been there since day one, and they're the ones that healed me. They're the reason I'm here. Other than the Lord, they're the reason that I'm alive and working with you.
Brandon, help us understand not only who you were, but who those other guys are out there. They're committing suicide on an alarming scale. They are desperate for exactly what you needed. How do we get to them? How do we get an arm around them? What do we say that makes them want what you got? And how in the world do you teach it to them or introduce them to them?
Well, the problem is with these veterans that are doing committing suicide, is they don't have an outlet. They don't have somebody to talk to. The number one thing that a lot of veterans that I've talked to before and now, all they want is to be heard. They want to be able to not be judged. So they want to be heard, they want to not be judged, right? Who's the one person that will hear you and not judge you? Only the Lord. And so, if I can be that mediator of, hey, this is what helped me, why don't you come and spend some time with me?
Your marriage is healed.
My marriage is healed. I'm not going to say that I'm 100%. I still deal with my PTSD, but I'm to the point where I can talk about it and I can try to heal others. I joined a peer support group when I was dealing with my stuff. Actually, Tanya was the reason I started that. Wood Warrior Project had a peer support group that they were doing, and she kind of forced me. I didn't want to go, and she said, well, you're in a wheelchair and I can drive you, so I'm going to take you over there anyway. And I'll tell you, that's one of the biggest things, and we met in a church, and again, God was right there. I just didn't know it. Just having somebody hear my story and hear me out and not tell me that everything was going to be okay, or tell me, this and that, and just listening. And then the leader of this thing, he actually prayed with me. That really helped. And that's what these veterans need. They just need to know that no matter how lonely you are, or no matter how lonely you feel, or that you think that you're worthless or you're not good enough for this world anymore, if the enemy can't kill you downrange, why are you going to lose to the enemy here? The warfighter's mission is to play out words, because yes, warfighters, as veterans, who fought in Iraq or Afghanistan, we are fighting this physical battle. But for us now, we're fighting a spiritual battle that nobody other than God can help us with. And so when we start fighting for what's right and fighting for the kingdom, like Ephesians, we put on our armor. Once we start doing that and God, we start walking with God, I've learned that it's been a lot easier. And the way that we're doing it, like I said, is with our families, because they hurt. They dealt with a lot of stress that we dealt with. We just didn't know it.
What's really interesting, Brandon, is that you're in a position now to really deal with those guys and to help them. I have learned what they go through talking with you, and your great passion is to reach them before they do something terrible. What I have seen is that got booted out of the military. And when they got out there, they didn't even know who they were. And they didn't know what they wanted or what they was going to do. They just felt out in the sea of confusion. And the only thing they know to do is kill themselves. That doesn't seem very reasonable or logical, but they're doing it, and they're doing it by the hundreds and more than hundreds. Describe what you know about them.
So that number is, you know, they keep saying that 22 veterans a day.
Unbelievable.
I think that number is well over that. I think that's 23 or 24 veterans that do. You know, we lost a lot of guys during combat, but my units, you know, that I was part of, the number of guys that we lost back home to their own demons, to their own hands, has surpassed that by triple of what happened. The reason that they're doing it, I'll tell you from my experience, is because of sense of purpose. They lose that sense of purpose of life. They don't know how to cope.
And military's gone.
Military's gone. You know, you live your life being told what to do in the military. The whole time that you're in the military, somebody's over you, telling you exactly what to do, how to fold your covers, how to brush your teeth, you know, do everything, where to go, what time to do things. And when you come out of that and have no purpose, or you think that you have no purpose, is when your mind starts wandering.
Does the military have no answer for that?
They send us to psychiatrists and psychologists and all them, and all they do is pump you with medication and say, hey, things are going to get better here, write this down. You're going to relive it, just write it down 5 times. There's not really a way to cope with it. It's when they start learning that there is a way. You know, the biggest part of it is they don't feel like they have it. They feel like they're alone. You know, I've had friends that they have wives, they have kids, they have their parents. That family bond that they have, they don't rely on them. And the family doesn't understand how to properly do it. So that's what we're trying to help with.
Your greatest passion now is to win people for Jesus Christ.
Yes, it is. That is my main one.
That brings the meaning with it that you never had before.
No.
And if you can save one of them and bring them to the Lord and give them meaning and purpose and love them and help them to know what to do next and give them a reason for living, you develop your own sense of purpose and meaning. And so you started this ministry for this purpose. You have a name for it. You call it
The Warfighter's Mission. So again, it's a play on words, but the mission comes up because, you know, we are warfighters, we fight combat, but we're also warfighters for God. Our mission while you're in combat is to do whatever is right for the country. And our mission is, you know, again, going on mission and trying to save as many as we can, as many families as we can. It used to start off, when I first started this thing, I thought it was just going to try to save the veterans, but it's also their families. Because when a family can heal together, it's so much better.
that is what motivated me with Focus on the Family and Family Talk, because I wanted to save those guys too and women too, and I wanted to provide an answer because there is one, and his name is Jesus.
He is, and that's why we're just so...
That's why I started radio, to introduce people to Christ, to help them save their families, keep them from committing suicide or whatever it is they're chasing. And I have the same passion that you have, because those answers are there. And I think of these poor guys that are out there. I knew them in the Army too. I saw them all around. They were lost. And I looked at it and I just said, man, there's something wrong here. And there's really only one answer. Only one. The Lord wanted you, Brandon. He wanted you before you wanted him. And he spoke to you and you accepted it.
James Dobson's Family Talk. We've just concluded part 2 of a 3-part discussion, a very, very powerful and poignant conversation featuring Dr. James Dobson and Brandon Cavillar about the plight of those men and women who are serving in the military right now and why the incidences of suicide, alcohol, FightersMission.com. There are also other courses available there too, an online blog. Right now it's for people exclusively in the state of Colorado, but the plan is to expand in 2025. There's a special outreach that the Warfighters Mission hosts every year, and you're encouraged to read more about that online. Go to drjamesdobson.org and click the link for the warfightersmission.com, the special ministry started by our guest today here on the program, Brandon Cavillar. Now, as Dr. Dobson has mentioned, and they were just referring to, Brandon and his wife Tanya Cavillar have 7 beautiful daughters who are all in studio with us today. Raising daughters is a huge challenge in today's culture with all the resources. And Dr. Dobson has written a powerful book, of course, the landmark book, Bringing Up Girls, which was first released, sold well over 1 million copies. We've taken that classic material and added a couple of updates courtesy of Dr. Owen Strand, who is the senior director of the new Dobson Culture Center, and put together a special 10-day email series on how to most effectively bring up girls, helping girls grow into adult women who can serve the Lord with gladness and joy and face the challenges that life has to bring to them. If you would like to start receiving this special 10-day email series, it's easy to do. Just go to drjamesdobson.org and click on the button there on the landing page, or go to drjamesdobson.org/family talk and click the link at the bottom of our broadcast page. Give us your name and email address, and we'll be happy to start sending you one of these special entries each and every day for the next 10 days. Again, the free Bringing Up Girls email series with additional material by Dr. Owen Strand is yours absolutely free. You go to drjamesdobson.org and click on the Bringing Up Girls tab, or go to drjamesdobson.org/family talk and click the link of today's broadcast page. Well, I'm Roger Marsh. Thanks so much for listening. Be sure to join us again next time right here for the conclusion of our powerful 3-part conversation featuring Dr. James Dobson and Brandon Cavillar of the warfightersmission.com. That's coming up next time right here on Dr. James Dobson's Family Talk.
This has been a presentation of the Dr. James Dobson Family Institute. Grow together through God's Word. This is Bob Radio Network.
How do we change a nation? One heart at a time. Preborn not only shares heartbeats, but shares hearts by loving women in crisis and leading them to Christ. When this mother came to a Preborn Network clinic, she was scared and not sure she could afford another child.
And it's just a scary time because having my daughter and how that would impact their lives. When I came here, it was just so amazing to come to an environment where someone would actually pray for me and guide me through my battles that I was facing during that time.
After receiving love, support, and the gospel of Jesus Christ, this mom chose life for her daughter. You can be a part of sharing heartbeats and shaping hearts for Christ with Preborn. One ultrasound session costs $28, and $140 will sponsor 5 ultrasounds. All gifts are tax deductible. To donate, dial pound 250 and say keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby. Or donate securely at preborn.com/bond. That's preborn.com/BOTT.
It's the little things that make your day.
Yes, I got the last bagel.
Green lights the whole way.
I got a sweet parking spot.
Hearing from listeners makes our day here at Bob Radio Network, and we have a listener comment line just for you. 1-800-345-2621. Call and tell us about your favorite broadcast ministries and where you're listening. 1-800-345-2621. That's 1-800-345-2621.
Stay informed on major issues happening in America today on The Wall Builders Show with hosts David Barton, Tim Barton, and Rick Green. You'll hear discussions on topics from a biblical, historical, and constitutional perspective, as they're joined by guests ranging from elected officials to citizens on the front lines. Hear what's happening at the intersection of faith and culture on The Wall Builders Show. Weekdays at 5:30 p.m. and Saturdays at 11:30 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. Central.
Radio Network, in the air for good.
surprisingly easy to create an idol, even out of good things God's given us. Today on Truth for Life Weekend, we'll learn how futile and dangerous it is to worship anything except for the one true God. Alistair Begg is teaching from Isaiah chapter 40. We're looking at verses 12 through 31.
Lord, with our Bibles before us, we pray that the Spirit of God will guide and constrain my lips, and Lord, that we might, in pondering this vast kind of display of your faithfulness and might, see ourselves as we really are and all of our finitude, that we might have a fresh witness and clear peace in all of your might and majesty and strength and power, and all of your availability to us when we are prepared to acknowledge just how fainting and weak we so readily are. We ask for your help in Jesus' name.
You try very,
Amen. We considered what we have here in verse 12 of the Creator God as He is revealed in all of His power and majesty. In verses 13 and 14 of how this Creator God is in no need of the counsel of others. And then we considered this great God within the framework of the nations of the world, and how before all of the might and majesty that is represented in nationality and in the power of that which is there to be displayed is essentially